week 6 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few kickers I have as sleepers this week. The first guy's Chase Mclaughlin of the Indianapolis Colts. So this Colt team, they don't find the end zone a lot. Jonathan Taylor, we don't know if he's going to play for sure. Missing practice so far early in the week here. But Chase Mclaughlin last week had a monster game, helping his team win with 4 field goals. That was all the scoring for this Indianapolis Colts team. So he's had 2 double-digit fantasy games this season. This week here versus Jacksonville, I know it's not the greatest of matchups. They give up the second least amount of fantasy points to kickers on the season, but still, Chase Mcgaughlin, he's been kicking the football well. And this is an offense in Indianapolis, like I mentioned, they can't finish drives. So if you need a kicker in deeper leagues, I got Mclaughlin as a sleeper this week. The next guy, Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. So we know this Seahawks team, they've been putting up a lot of points over the last few weeks here, especially 2 weeks ago in week 4 at Detroit, where they scored 48 points, and then last week in a tough loss, putting 32 on the board. So Jason Myers, he's been a solid kicker the last couple weeks here for fantasy owners. Still available in 93% of fantasy leagues. In week 6 here versus Arizona, this game could either go one way, a shootout between these two teams, or a division matchup between NFC West rivals, where it's in the mid-teens to low 20s. So right now, I still think Jason Myers could carve out a decent sleeper option at kicker. And like I said, week 3, 11 fantasy points. And week 4 at Detroit, 14. So he's been kicking the ball well, is Myers. And he's a sleeper this week. And the third and final kicker I have as a sleeper option this week is Greg Zuerlein of the New York Jets. So this Jet offense, they don't finish a lot of drives in the end zone. Zach Wilson so far, he's rarely found the end zone since he started week 4 after coming off injury. Breece Hall, we know he's been the bell cow and been their best playmaker so far this season here for this New York Jet team. But Greg the Leg, he's having a resurgence with the Jets after the last few seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of struggles and missed field goals. So the last couple games here for Zuerlein. Week 4, Pittsburgh, 6 fantasy points. Week 5, versus Miami, 8. And this week here, Green Bay, they are bend but don't break type of defense, where the Jets will have to settle for some field goals. And if you want to keep up with Aaron Rodgers, even though this offense isn't the same like it was even last season over there in Green Bay, with Devonte Adams going to the Raiders in the trade, you got to put up points. So right now, Zuerlein available in 95% of fantasy leagues, and he's a decent kicking option this week as a sleeper. So that's a few kickers I have as sleepers here for week 6 of the fantasy football season.